a shroud. I stood alone beside the empty tracks, my heart pounding a frantic rhythm against my ribs so loud it drowned out the wind. The rain had finally stopped, but the world had fallen silent in unnatural, suffocating quiet. Even my own breathing felt like a desperate gasp in the stillness. Above me, the platform sign still glowed faintly, dead station, arrival complete. I whispered to myself, a prayer against the dark. No, this can't be real. I pressed my hand against the cold glass of the ticket booth. It was solid, real, but inside, behind the cracked window, something moved. A shape shifted in the darkness, almost human. Then the booth light flickered on, casting a sickly glow on a ticket clerk. His skin was gray, his eyes sunken and empty, and he was staring directly at me. I stumbled closer. Hey, I just fell off a train. I need help. The clerk blinked once, a slow, deliberate movement. His lips parted, and a voice like dry dust filled the air. You shouldn't have left the train. I froze, the words hanging between us. What do you mean? The journey isn't over, he rasped. It never is. Passengers who jump always return. His hand rose with a sound of creaking bones, pushing a small piece of paper through the slot. A ticket, stamped in red ink, were two words: return trip, compulsory. I shook my head, my whole body trembling. No, I'm not getting back on that thing. The clerk's lips stretched into a faint smile, revealing teeth that were too long to sharp. You already did. And just like that, the lights went out. I spun around. The tracks behind me pulsed with a faint red glow, the same eerie light from before the train first arrived. The air began to vibrate with the deep, distant rumble of metal wheels on steel. Not again. I had to get out. I started to run. Through the fog, past silent station benches, sprinting toward the exit. But the gate was gone. In its place stood a wall of solid, cold brick. The path had vanished. The rumble grew louder, closer, until a whistle screamed through the air, piercing the silence. I turned back just in time to see Train 404 emerge again from the mist. But this time, it didn't stop. It phased right through the platform like smoke. Its metal shimmered like heat haze, and its windows were filled with faces, not human faces, but hollow, melting shapes pressed against the glass, their mouths open in silent, eternal screams. And then, as quickly as it appeared, it was gone. I collapsed to my knees, the cold concrete biting into my jeans. It's not real. This isn't happening. A whisper slid past my ear, intimate and chilling. Reality ends where the tracks begin. I spun around. The veiled woman from the train stood inches away. Her veil was torn now, revealing a pale, almost featureless face with eyes as black and empty as the tunnel behind her. You told me to jump, I shouted, my voice raw with terror and rage. You said that's how I escape. She tilted her head, a bird-like gesture. You escaped the train, not the station, then tell me how to leave, I pleaded. The woman slowly raised a skeletal hand and pointed toward the far end of the platform, toward a rusted maintenance tunnel. Through there, she whispered, her voice a dry rustle. But every step takes something from you. I swallowed hard, my throat tight. Takes what? Memories. Breath. Soul. Choose wisely. Before I could ask another question, she dissolved into the fog as if she had never been there at all. I forced myself to my feet and walked toward the tunnel. Each footstep echoed, growing louder, heavier, almost as if something else was walking right behind me. The tunnel entrance was blocked by rusted chains and a sign that read, nitrogen monoxide in TRY staff only. I kicked the chains and they shattered with a sharp clang. I ducked inside. The smell hit me instantly, mold, rot, and a sharp, metallic tang like old blood. The air was colder here, so cold my breath plumed in pale wisps before me. Then my phone vibrated in my pocket. I froze. Impossible. The screen had been cracked and dead since the fall, but now it glowed with a faint, ghostly light. An unknown number. The message on the screen read, "You're late." Panic seized me. I dropped the phone, and as it clattered on the ground, the message changed, the letters rearranging themselves on the cracked glass, train arriving again. Seat 13 reserved. I screamed and smashed the phone against the tunnel wall. The light went out, and then I heard it. Footsteps. Behind me. Slow, dragging footsteps. I turned, and my blood ran cold. Shadows were moving across the tunnel wall. 1, 2, 3 distorted figures, their shapes dripping from the ceiling like wax. A whisper echoed from the darkness. You left your seat. Unfinished, the shapes lunged forward. I ran. The tunnel twisted and turned, the ground ground slippery under my feet. Every flickering light turned red as I passed, bathing the walls in a hellish glow. I burst out into a vast underground chamber, a graveyard of trains. Hundreds of old carriages were stacked like coffins, each bearing a name, each glowing faintly with a number. And there, near the center, was one that said 404. I staggered toward it. Its door hung open, an invitation into the abyss. I could see inside the same velvet seats, the same flickering lights. And sitting there, waiting for me, was me, my double, my exact copy, pale, shaking, staring right back with my own eyes. The double smiled. You made it back. My voice was a trembling whisper. What are you? I'm what's left of you, it said. The one who never jumped. I tried to back away, but my double stood, reaching out a hand that shook just like mine. Don't you see? You were never alive after you boarded. You've been part of the schedule all along. No, I started, but it lunged forward, grabbing my wrist. Our skin merged for a split second, flesh bending, veins twisting together. The flash of every memory I ever had, my childhood, my mother's face, my first heartbreak, all of it tore away from me like smoke. I didn't know who I was anymore. My own name felt wrong on my tongue. My reflection was gone. I stumbled backward into the shadows, gasping as the train door slammed shut. I woke up. I was sitting on the velvet seat again. The train was moving, the familiar hum of the tracks vibrating through me. The same flickering lights, the same haunting piano tune. I looked up. The conductor stood nearby, perfectly still, his eyes hollow voids. Where am I croaked. The conductor smiled. Home. I turned toward the window. Outside, an endless dark landscape rushed past. No towns, no sky, just faint shapes moving in the distance, souls walking along invisible rails. I whispered the truth I already knew. I died, didn't I? The conductor nodded once. You boarded the last train. Everyone does eventually. I leaned back in my seat, the shaking finally stopping. The other passengers, the veiled woman, the little girl with the doll, the ticket clerk all turned slowly to look at me, their faces passive, watching. What happens now? The conductor tipped his hat. Next stop, the beginning. The lights dimmed. Piano stopped. The train plunged into the tunnel again. From the darkness came the faint, tinny echo of that same announcement. Train 400 for now, arriving at dead station. All souls, please remain seated. But this time, the train didn't stop. It kept going through the void, through endless shadow, through places where sound itself died. I pressed my hand against the cold window and saw my reflection, or something pretending to be me, smile back. It leaned closer and whispered through the glass, you never left. The whistle screamed. Some stations don't belong to maps. Some journeys never end. When you hear the sound of a train in the fog long after midnight, don't follow it. Because if you do, you won't be watching from the platform. You'll be riding the next one. Thanks for watching. The rain had been falling since dusk, a steady, endless whisper against the tracks. The sign at the entrance flickered weakly, Black Hollow Station. Most of the letters were broken now, but enough remained to warn anyone foolish enough to step closer. Ethan Morgan pulled his jacket tighter and checked his watch. 11:57 p.m. He was the only passenger left on the empty platform. The timetable said one last train would arrive before midnight, but the tracks had been silent for hours. A cold wind swept through the platform, carrying with it the faint echo of laughter. No, not laughter, more like a whisper. Ethan turned. Nobody. Just shadows and the pale glow of a single overhead light. He muttered under his breath, maybe I should have taken the bus. But there were no buses at this hour. No cars either. Just the sound of dripping water and the occasional flicker of a broken light bulb. He looked again at the schedule board. Train 404. Arrival 12 a.m. Train 404. Strange number. He didn't remember ever seeing it before. From the far end of the platform came the faint screech of metal like brakes grinding against rust. Ethan froze. The sound grew louder. A cold gust of wind rushed past him, scattering wet leaves. The light above flickered violently, then steadied, and that's when he saw it. A train emerged from the fog, black, sleek, but ancient looking. Its windows glowed with a dim orange light. It didn't slow down until it was right in front of him, stopping with a hiss of steam. The doors slid open. Inside, everything looked empty. Ethan called out, hello, anyone there? A low hum filled the air, followed by a faint announcement over unseen speakers. Train 400 for now arriving at Black Hollow Station. Passengers for the final journey, please board. Ethan blinked. Final journey. He should have walked away. Every instinct told him to, but something curiosity, maybe fear pulled him forward. He stepped inside. The interior smelled of rust and damp wood. The seats were upholstered in crimson velvet, old and faded. Faint tune played through the speakers, an old piano melody, warped and uneven. He walked down the aisle. "Hello," he said again. His voice echoed strangely, like the train was swallowing the sound. Then he saw movement. Woman sat at the far end, wearing a long gray coat and a black veil over her face. Her hands were folded neatly in her lap. She didn't move. Ethan hesitated. "Ma'am, is this train going to Central City?" The woman tilted her head slightly. "You shouldn't be here," she whispered. Her voice was soft, but it echoed through the carriage like thunder. "What do you mean?" Ethan asked, taking a cautious step back. "The 404 doesn't stop for the living," he blinked. "Excuse me," but when he looked again, the woman was gone. The seat was empty. A faint laughter, childlike and distant, echoed from the next compartment. Ethan's heart pounded as he followed the sound. The next carriage was darker. The lights flickered, revealing glimpses of old. Posters peeling off the walls. Dust floated in the air. A little girl stood in the aisle, facing away from him. Her hair was tangled and wet. She held a broken doll. Ethan's voice trembled. "Hey, are you lost?" The girl didn't respond. Then she turned and smiled. Her eyes were pitch black, her smile too wide, stretching unnaturally. The doll in her hands whispered something in a voice that wasn't human. "Play with us." Ethan stumbled backward, slamming into a seat. What the hell? The lights went out. For a moment, there was only darkness. Then dash flashes, dot faces. Dead faces. Passengers staring blankly with hollow eyes, sitting perfectly still in their seats. The announcement came again, distorted this time. "Next stop, dead station." All souls prepared to depart. The train started moving slow at first, then faster. Ethan grabbed a pole, trying to steady himself. "Stop the train," he shouted. No one answered. He ran toward the front carriage. The doors creaked open with resistance. Inside, he found the conductor, or what was left of him. The man's uniform was torn, his face pale and lifeless, yet his eyes followed Ethan. "You shouldn't have boarded." The conductor rasped. "Whenever leaves the dead station, please just stop the train." The conductor's lips curled into a smile that wasn't human. "The train stops for no one. It collects what's owed." Ethan backed away as the conductor's body began to shake violently. His head snapped to one side, bones cracking, and his voice twisted into a demonic whisper. "Next stop, your turn." Ethan bolted out of the cabin, running through the cars as the lights flickered red. The walls seemed to pulse like the train itself was alive. Shadows reached out from the windows, clawing at his clothes. He stumbled into a compartment where the woman with the veil reappeared, now standing in front of the door. "Please," he gasped, "tell me how to get out." She raised her hand and pointed toward the emergency exit at the back. "Jump before the clock strikes 12. He looked at his watch. 11:59 p.m. He ran. The air outside was thick with fog and rain. He reached the back door, yanked it open wide, roared in. The tracks below glistened under the moonlight. Then he heard them voices whispering his name. Ethan turned. The entire train was now filled with the dead pale faces pressed against the windows, eyes glowing faintly. The little girl stood closest, her doll raised. "Stay," she whispered. "The dead have been lonely." He jumped. Ethan hit the ground hard, rolling into the gravel beside the tracks. The sound of the train faded into the fog, its whistle echoing like a scream. When he looked up, the world was silent. He lay there, shaking, gasping for breath. His watch showed 12:01 a.m. He stood, brushing off dirt, and turned to look around. There was no sign of the train, just the empty station platform. But the sign above it had changed. It no longer said Black Hollow Station. Now it read, "Dead Station, Arrival Complete." Ethan frowned. What? Then he saw his reflection in the glass of the ticket booth, pale, blood trickling from his temple, and behind him, the veiled woman smiling. "Welcome home," she whispered. "Some trains never stop. Some stations never close. If you ever find yourself at a platform where no one else stands, don't wait for the midnight train, because once it arrives, it's already too late." The train moved but made no sound. A low, constant vibration hummed through the floor, as if the whole world was breathing through metal lungs. I sat frozen, staring at the black window. My reflection, no, not my reflection. It was another version of me, and it smiled faintly from the other side of the glass. "You never left," it whispered again. I clenched my fists. "You're not real." The reflection tilted its head, its eyes flashing red for a split second. "Neither are you." A thin cracked spider webbed across the glass, and with it came a faint sound, like 1,000 voices whispering through static. The conductor's voice echoed through the carriage, calm but distorted. "Passengers, prepare for inspection. Keep your eyes forward." One by one, the lights above flickered. In perfect, chilling unison, every passenger turned their head toward the aisle. Veiled faces, hollow eyes, all except for one, a little girl with a doll sitting across from me. She was staring right at me, unblinking. I leaned forward, my voice a desperate whisper. "You can see me, can't you?" She nodded slowly. "What is this place?" I asked. Her voice was soft, almost mechanical. "The train moves between moments, between deaths." "What?" "Some people die, but their souls miss the stop. The conductor collects them, gives them a seat. But once you sit," her doll's head twisted toward me, its painted mouth cracking open. "You belong to him." I recoiled as the doll's eyes rolled white. The girl's face went completely blank, as if someone had hit pause. Then, footsteps. The conductor. He was tall, thin, and moved with an unnatural stillness. His cap cast a deep shadow over his face, but a gold badge on his chest shimmered faintly. It looked more like an eye than a logo. He moved down the aisle, and every head bowed as he passed. When he reached me, he stopped. "Ticket." My hand trembled as I gave him the return ticket. He looked down at it and smiled, but it wasn't a kind smile. "You weren't supposed to come back." I swallowed hard. I didn't have a choice. "There's always a choice," he hissed. "You just made the wrong one." He stamped the ticket, and the sound was like a gunshot. "Why are we here?" I demanded. "What is this train?" He leaned closer, his whisper crawling into my skull. "This isn't a train. It's a memory that never stopped moving." "What memory?" He smiled again. "Yours." And the lights went out. Complete darkness. No sound, no breath, no heartbeat. Then the faint strain of an engine struggling to start, followed by distant screams. When the lights flickered back on, the seats around me were empty. Every passenger was gone. Only their silhouettes remained burned into the fabric. "Hello, anyone?" A faint tapping echoed down the aisle. The veiled woman from before stood at the far end. "You shouldn't talk to him," she whispered. "He listens through the walls." I ran toward her. "Where is everyone?" "They've been moved to the other side." "The other side of what?" She looked down. "The tracks." We walked through the corridor, passing door after door, each marked with numbers, symbols, and names. My own name appeared on one. Ethan Miles departed, 12:00 a.m. I froze. "That's tonight." She nodded. "The moment you jumped, you died. You just didn't believe it." "No, I survived. I remember hitting the ground." "Yes," she said softly, "and then you stopped breathing." Before I could process it, the train screeched violently, throwing us against the wall. Sparks rained from the ceiling as the lights turned a horrifying blood red. "He knows we're talking," she gasped. The floor split open beneath us, revealing tracks made of bones and a swirling void below, filled with screaming faces. The train wasn't on rails anymore. It was floating through a storm of souls. A siren wailed backwards from the conductor's cabin. "We have to stop this," I yelled, grabbing her arm. She shook her head. "You can't stop what's already dead." "Then there has to be another way out." Her voice cracked. "There is, but it's worse." "Tell me." "You have to take his place." I stared at her. "What?" She pointed to the front cabin. "Every soul that boards this train becomes a passenger, but the one who kills the conductor becomes the next one." My breath caught. It couldn't be true, but deep down I knew it was. I ran, sprinting through the shaking carriages as the world outside blurred into red and black. I reached the conductor's door and banged on it. "Open the damn door." A calm voice replied, "You already are." The lock clicked. The door slid open. Inside, hundreds of clocks ticked in reverse. The walls pulsed like veins, and in the center, the conductor sat, perfectly still. "Why me?" I asked. He turned, his face finally visible. It was pale, stretched, his eyes made of shattered glass. "You jumped," he said. "You interrupted the schedule. That makes you mine." I raised a metal rod I'd grabbed from the hall. "Not anymore." He stood, towering over me. "Then take your seat, conductor." brutal and silent. Every blow echoed like thunder. Wasn't trying to kill him, I drove the rod straight into his badge. A blinding light erupted. The world bent inward and my vision shattered into white static. Then silence. I woke up standing, alone. The train was still. The golden eye badge was in my hand, warm like a heartbeat. I looked up. The mirror showed me, but I was wearing the conductor's uniform. No, no. As I shouted, the train's lights flickered on and an announcement echoed in my own voice. Train 400 for now arriving at dead station. I fell to my knees. The veiled woman appeared beside me one last time. Every passenger becomes what they fear most, she said. I looked at her, tears mixing with blood. And what was yours? She smiled faintly to never arrive. Then she dissolved into dust. The train began to move again. I stood at the front window, watching the endless fog. I pressed the badge to my chest. A reflection wore the cap. My voice, soft and final, spoke through the intercom. Passengers, prepare for boarding. One by one, faint shadows began appearing on the seats again. The whistle blew. The train entered the fog. And this time, there was no coming back.